radio live. Sits hum deep like a heartbeat pulse. Retro dreams where we are lost. Neon waves take us back in.
Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Donor. We're in a very special episode of VSW Podcast, and we got the one and only Spike Nishimura with us. Welcome.
Hey, good to be here. How's it going?
Going good, you know. A nice, great Valentine's Day morning. I mean, you can't go wrong. A little cold, but what are you going to do?
Yep, it's going to be a little icy. I mean, that's the weather. I think it's going to be like this until like May, at least.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, and we could just talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, unfortunately, the Blitzkrieg show had to get canceled.
I know. I'm bummed about it. I was really looking forward to it. I haven't wrestled Mimi before. I've been watching her crew for a while. Like, I think we met pretty close to when I started actively wrestling at, I want to say, Focus Pro. And then since then, I've wanted to get in the ring with her. So it's a shame, but I mean, silver lining. We're still on for March, sounds like.
It is. And I saw your name on there. I saw her name on there. So
it could still happen. I mean, it's definitely a possibility.
But yeah, I've seen you when on Focus Pro too. You were, I think, tagged up with Big Juicy.
Yeah, Spiked Punch. Yeah,
that was a fun one. That was a fun one. So let me. When did you get into wrestling?
Okay, so I actually wasn't like a childhood fan, which I know isn't super common. I came to it later. I'll tell you the same story. I had one of my best friends growing up, was a huge wrestling fan. Watched Raw religiously, tried to get me into it, didn't really click. But you know, it was kind of always something that was in my brain. It just wasn't like one of my interests. And then when I kind of got into like high school, I want to say, I started looking into it more, just, you know, on a whim. And what I found was diving into things on the internet, seeing what was available on the indies at the time. And this would have been like mid to late 2010s. What I ended up finding was Lucha Underground. So that was actually the first like wrestling show that I watched consistently that I like really got into. And I think that kind of got the ball rolling on what my major influences are in wrestling, what I look for, what I like. And a lot of the wrestlers who are on that, I still like following to this day. Like,
yeah, like totally different than Raw, totally different vibe. Like,
yeah, completely different. I didn't realize and I think a lot of people who see independent wrestling for the first time don't realize that it can be so different from what they've seen on TV, from kind of what the mainstream image is.
Yeah, and I mean, mainstream imagery, it's great. It sets a standard. It's good for, you know, like I said, I've been a wrestling fan probably since a kid, because those early, you know, big matchups, Hogan and Andre and all these, you know, Ultimate Warrior, they all grabbed me as a kid. But, you know, if you look like forward to it and keep watching it, you know, it's all kind of one style of wrestling. But now when you get to the indie scene, you can break it up. You can go watch GCW if you're into the Extreme and Deathcore. You can watch, you know, something like Lucha Underground if you're more into storytelling and character-driven stuff. You can go, you know, anywhere you want and just, you know, get some kind of wrestling that might speak to you rather than just, you know, what's on TV.
For sure. I love that there's something for everyone. I think that's super cool. What's one of the best things about being a wrestler or being a fan today is like having a million different options for whatever you want to see.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a nice boom era, I feel, because there's a lot of options. Fans, there's a lot of options. Wrestlers, there's a lot of options of places to work, go to, see. And it's a great time now that, I mean, people are going abroad more often, which you've been abroad. But, you know, it seems now it's become more kind of common, which is nice because people are coming from, you know, other countries coming here and wrestling for our local promotions.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love the exchange. I think it's awesome that we have that. I think it's great for everyone to be able to experience all those different styles. Yeah, like you mentioned, I was in Japan for a month last year for, I think, all of October, pretty much, give or take a few days, with Sendai Girls. And I learned so much from that experience, just being kind of immersed in that style, being at the dojo, being at the shows, kind of taking it all in, learning from everything I could. It was awesome. Super, super like invigorating and really like motivational to keep moving forward.
It's different than America. It's different than America.
It's such a different world. Totally feels like a different world.
We see video all the time, and it just, I don't know, just the fans, everybody. I think one shocking thing when I first started watching a lot of like Japanese wrestlers is the fans are quiet. They don't really talk much.
Yeah, they definitely, or they don't kind of have the same style as American fans. Definitely, like in the States, you'll hear people like starting chants all the time. Like, feels like they're very active through the whole match. And then the Japanese fans, it's definitely much more like they're quiet until something starts happening, and then they kind of get that build
Yeah, they like
to the
watching it,
payoff.
calculating it. It's interesting though.
It's very different. It's very different. Yeah.
But the styles are great, and I love seeing the styles be, like I said, brought back here, and people bringing that style, what they learned there, and bringing and implementing here, teaching others here. Because like I said, Japanese has a totally different style than American style wrestling. But it's always been there. It's always been something like I said, prestigious. Growing up, like I said, you'd hear like Hulk Hogan went to Japan, Andre went to Japan. Like these guys would go, but they had to like they weren't the big superstars that they are here. They had to like go there and kind of impress a little bit more, and it was more of an honor. And I still see that today. When people go overseas to wrestle, whether it be a month, a year, whatever it is, it's an honor to do so because you're in another country doing something. And it really shows that wrestling is worldwide.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. I mean, it definitely felt like an honor being picked to go over. I think it's still, even now that it is more common, it still feels special. Like you're going somewhere else. At least in most cases, in my case at least, and I know this has been how it's been for other people I know. They take great care of you while you're over there. You kind of feel like a celebrity. Like, yeah, on the one hand, you're a nobody. They don't really know you as well. But also with the internet, and especially with like Twitter or like Instagram, or that whole, everyone kind of has an online presence now. It's almost required to like be a wrestler at this point. You have to be able to like market yourself like that. They still knew who I was, which was also weird to me because I totally expected to go in and them to be like, who the hell is Spike? What are we doing here? But no, they knew who I was. They bought my merch. They cheered my name. So it is kind of like that weird disconnect between like, yeah, this is a totally new place. This is totally different. But at the same time, they've seen my posts. They follow me. They know who I am. They recognize me. So like, it's something to adjust to, definitely, in like modern wrestling. And I guess I can't really claim that people in Japan wouldn't know who Hulk Hogan was way back then.
No. And I mean,
But
it's
still different,
like
yeah.
it wasn't. I didn't mean like not like they're gonna say, "Oh my God, who's that?" But it's just that he's not treated as the world champion because they have their world champion. They have their high-end wrestlers, and
Sure.
they're great, greats, and so they were putting greats against greats. And Hogan had to work over there. He had to actually wrestle.
Oh, he did, absolutely. Yeah.
Couldn't do 3 moves. But so, taking it back, you're around that Lucha Underground era. You say, maybe I'm going to give this wrestling thing a try now. Where do you look for schools? Where do you go to school? Do you go to school? You find a friend?
Yeah, I do. I'm at New England Pro Wrestling Academy. And I love it there. It's awesome. Wouldn't recommend anywhere else at this point. At least if you're in the New England area. I mean, well, that's not quite true. I think they give very good, very, very strong fundamentals. And I enjoy going there to continue to train. I learn something every time I go into class. I actually have yet to check out. There are a few other schools in the area that I've been meaning to go to, mostly Bio Pro in Worcester.
Bio Pro Worcester, you got
Bell Time, Top Rope.
Bell Time,
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. So
that was good. Then I mean, if you go up, you got Limitless Dojo. I mean,
tons of
Creative Pro is great too. They put out.
If you want to go a little further south, yeah. If you want to go to the New York area, yeah, I've heard great things about them too.
But and also honestly, an up and coming school that I think is doing really well is like the Ring Gladiator School too.
Yeah, they haven't been around for as long, but
probably a year or so, 2 years maybe.
Yeah.
But they keep doing it, putting out people. I mean, it's good to have these schools. Is that I feel like there wasn't many.
Absolutely, yeah.
When I tried to get into wrestling, and I say try because I was a small kid, and at the time of getting in, wrestling wasn't for small people.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted big, hulking guys.
You want your Hulk Hogan's. You want your
They didn't want your 5'8". If we flash forward today, there's a market for it, but back then,
everyone on the indies is like average size, or sorry, the majority of the indies.
Yeah, and so but back then it was Braun, and so they were like, we could do other things, but it was only like Killer Kowalski School, which Netball picked up part of that heritage and so forth. But
oh yeah, super strong part of our heritage.
But yeah, I always I like netball. I've done their fantasy camp once, and I thought it was great. With Max over there doing his thing,
Oh, he's
and
awesome.
everybody else just doing.
I was just at his class last night, actually. Yeah.
And you get a lot of great people coming like AG and Dijak and all these people coming in with this great knowledge that have been to WWE, been to Japan, been to other countries, coming back, teaching all of that. It does start off a very strong fundamental.
It's an absolutely. It's really, really good for just like if you want a great base to jump off from anywhere you want to go to, like you mentioned, going to Japan, going to the WWE, going to AEW. We probably have someone who's been through the school who's there who we can, at least know that we have that connection.
Yeah,
for example, like you said, AG, for example, when I was in Japan, he was someone I reached out to while I was over there just to be like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. Do you have any advice, like guidance for how to navigate this? And he was awesome about that.
And I also like to look at schools to see, like, where students are going, where are they going places. I mean, obviously, Chaotic has the rich heritage that they've had a lot of people come through there, but like even local people, like from newer times, like Ricky Smoke just got his ID. He's straight out of
Awesome.
And there's other people that are right on that like border that it could be called any day, honestly, because they're putting out good people. I'm a fan, like I said. I go to a lot of the chaotic shows. They come to my town almost like once or every other month now. And I also like Rad Pro too. Rad Pro's a lot of fun. Everybody's got the different characters. So so you went through there. How was training? How was school? Did you find it what you were expecting it to be, or was it something like totally different?
It was, yeah. I mean, I think it's been demystified a lot, especially in the past few years, like what wrestling training actually entails. So I think what I'd heard was a lot of like dark side of the ring, like horror show. You're gonna get stretched. You're gonna get like they're gonna put you through your paces. They're gonna beat you up if you make these mistakes or like commit these social faux pas that you might not even know exist. But then what I found actually was it was a really welcoming crowd. Athletically, it was a hell of a workout. I gotta say, like, but I come from an athletic background. I always did sports, like as a kid, growing up through school. So like, I definitely got in the gym before I signed up for training. Just I was like terrified that I wouldn't be able to like keep up. So I made sure I got in as good shape as I possibly could before I finally showed up to my first day of training, and I never looked back.
Yeah, see, I didn't do that. See, I ended up after all that and everything. I ended up getting into like amateur boxing and doing some of that stuff. But I didn't try to get into shape first. I just went into out of shape and joined their team train. Said, "Let's go."
Yeah, no, I respect that. It's full send, right?
First day in, it's
learn
like
on the job.
2 hours, just straight calisthenics and like push-ups and stuff, just straight 2 hours. I'm like ready to throw up, and I'm like can't move for 2 days. And then the next day we got it again. It's like starting again, but you get in that routine, and honestly, it is a great workout because, like boxing, like wrestling, like any of these things, you get tired. Your body gets tired, your mind gets tired, the mentality in your mind drains your body energy. Like, so you have to always kind of just be over prepared.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Got to be ready for whatever they have, whatever life or whatever wrestling throws at you, for sure.
And especially wrestling, even more so because right. I mean, boxing got at least some standards of the round's over in 2 minutes, they ending it. Wrestling things can go over, under, anything can happen.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've never had a match go to like time limit, but I can't imagine. I've seen these long matches, and it's the endurance you have to stay in it for that long. Like, I love to test myself with it. I'd love to be put in that situation, but man, yeah.
So you got through the training, and then you just hit the scene, just hit it hard.
Yeah, pretty much. I trained for I think about a year and a half before formally debuting. Year and change, probably something like that. And then off to the races. Working all over New England to start. And still kind of based in New England. That's still like my home scene for sure. It's probably always will be. But you know, I've been trying to branch out lately to find other shows elsewhere, just like see what's out there. I think some of my best experiences with wrestling have been kind of leaving that comfort zone.
Now,
And
what was that? What was that first match like? Because, like, now, granted, like you said, you weren't that childhood kid watching this superstar on television, going, "I want to be that champ."
Mhm.
But you had obviously the passion and dream to go through the year of school to get through all that to get into the ring. So, what was it like being in there, and fulfilling that dream? Was it like satisfying? Was it nervous?
Yeah, it was I mean, kind of a whole mix of emotions. Obviously, before I go through the curtain, like nerves for days. Um, just hoping that everything goes well, just hoping that I can like perform. Because you know, I've had these like matches in training. I've tried to like kind of get in that headspace, but it's nothing's ever the same as actually going out and hitting a live show in the same way. Like you can go through matches in class, you can go through wrestle in front of your fellow students, but none of it's ever the same as being on a show where there's a live paying audience and putting it out there and responding to them and just hoping they like you.
Well, yeah, I mean that I think that is a factor. The audience is a big factor because the audience can determine, sometimes determine who's liked, who's favored in the match, who's
Yeah, and
not.
that the psychology
Um,
of that is so like I don't think people do know at this point, but it's hard to really feel it until you're in there. Just how much the audience's reaction and their response to you can really determine your performance or
well, I
like
think we
have that
noticed
huge
in the
impact on it.
pandemic. I think the pandemic we noticed that when there was no
Mhm.
fans and we had all these tapings and taped shows. I think we started to notice, yeah, they're doing great matches, but there's something missing.
Yeah,
Some
it's such a key aspect of wrestling. Like it really isn't the same without it.
Yeah, it's like if there was no referees at all. It'd be like, there's
Right.
something
Yeah.
not right about this. And it takes everybody to make, a match or make an event. It just takes everybody to make that atmosphere special, including the crowd.
For sure.
Fans are a big part of it. I've been to, shows where fans have made the show amazing. I've been to, unfortunately, shows where fans have made it miserable and bad.
Hmm.
You'll have a bunch of just, I don't like to say disgusting, but I'll just say rude. I'll say rude fans or people that will have, chant rude things and it'll upset other fans, and then wrestlers will get upset, and you can tell it just like downsends the whole show.
Hmm.
It doesn't
Totally.
happen
It's so
often,
unfortunate.
luckily, and New England's a really good scene, but I have been to some shows where it's like that. It's like, well,
Yeah,
somebody
it's
will
really
say
unfortunate.
something or blurt something out that they probably shouldn't have said, and it's just like,
Yeah, no, it's
everybody gets.
unfortunate. It really is.
But
Seeing
for
that
the
happen.
most part, I think the fans honestly excel it. You got the people now you see in a lot of the indies that's coming back, people with signs. One of my favorites is Greg, the sign guy.
Oh
He
yeah,
makes
South Coast. Yeah, this
he
they're
makes one
awesome.
of the best. He makes some of the best signs out there. Very, very creative.
Hmm.
And it brings also part of that atmosphere to a show. And you see it, even on camera or in person, you see a big sign, you see the wrestler interact with the sign. That adds to the whole dynamic of everything.
No, absolutely. And like those are honestly those are some of the best fans to see when they care enough about it and they keep coming back and bringing signs and like showing that level of engagement and like they're really invested in what we're doing, what's going
Means you're
on.
paying attention,
Yeah,
yeah. I
exactly.
mean,
That's awesome. We love to see that. And they care enough to do something about it to like engage with the show in that way.
and I think when like I said, I remember like 2000, maybe like 98, 99, 2000. I'd go to wrestling shows. WWE was that another, the Attitude Era was another kind of branching point where people were all into it. And we'd go to Raw, and all you would see was signs. People would just bring sign after sign after sign.
Yeah.
And it could be silly signs, stupid signs. It could be, legit wrestling signs. It could be well drawn signs. But there was just signs. And that kind of went away everywhere. It's like nobody brings signs. But now the indie scene, I saw it. I'd go up to Maine too. And, for a while up there was a guy for years that was bringing up, really good signs as well. I know he took a break, but, I see it. I see it also NCW. They bring out signs. There's a few people.
Hmm.
And some of them just, they'll make you laugh because they'll say something just really funny.
Yeah, I think Chaotic has a lot of great fans who bring signs regularly. I
Yes.
started noticing. Hmm.
Yes, they do. Chaotic's another one that has just a really good dedicated fan base.
Hmm.
I feel,
Yeah, for sure.
going around, I go, like I said, I try to go to a bunch of the shows, but when they come to Watertown, I always try to get to that one. I like that show. They got
Hmm.
the nice little
It's a
stage
good
up
venue.
above. You can
Yeah,
see
I'm a
really
big fan
good.
of Watertown.
it's fun. But you know, they got all their classic venues too that you know they've been running for years, and so always a good time. Never disappoints. I know the big one's coming up soon, Cold Fury. So
Yeah, we're on the road.
that's exciting.
Oh, I'm hyped. Yeah, we got some cool stuff coming up for that.
You know, let's say Chaotic is New England. It really is. It's one of those brands that is just it's synonymous. You know, you can't really talk about history of pro wrestling in the area without it, which is cool.
No, absolutely, and I think that's another cool thing about training at NEPWA and having that connection to Chaotic and like being connected to that like legacy that's been in New England for over 20 years now, and has managed to stick around and maintain this kind of dedicated following and that kind of level of notoriety, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's not like the wrestlers
names too.
forget.
Like you see who's come through here.
When they come in the area, they come back. I've seen pictures. They
Sure.
come to help you train. They come train with you. They come teach things. So I mean, obviously, it made an impact in their lives. They're still thinking about it when they're on the big screen.
For sure.
So, what has been some of your favorite matches now?
My favorite matches. Yeah, well, I mean, pretty much every match I had in Japan was awesome. Those were, I think the difference in style was really cool to work with, cool to like work around and kind of be able to apply what I knew, the stuff that I was already kind of comfortable with, and like my usual move set to new audience, new set of opponents. Those were all awesome, great to work with, especially working with like really experienced opponents like that. Like they've got so many kind of different tricks and like things that they've learned over the years that I can then kind of absorb, even if it's absorbing them through getting kicked in the face. That's still learning. Other than that, recently, let me think. Yeah, that's the ones that really like stand out as being like really strong showings lately. That was just like such a highlight of my year, being able to learn there. From then, actually at Chaotic last year, and yeah, no, that was all last year. Time flies. I cannot keep track of
It
this
does.
calendar.
It's
I know,
weird
it's
because I'll
crazy.
look at because I mean I take a lot of videos, photos, and I'll
Sure.
look at like stuff and I'll look back, try to find stuff from shows. I'll be like, wait a minute, that was 2 years ago. Wait,
I know, it's
what?
crazy. I'm like, oh, how long have I been wrestling? How long have I been training now? Like,
I'm still in 2021. I'm like,
right. It's crazy how this like keeps happening. But yeah, so at Chaotic, wrestling Trigger the OG for the New England Championship. I was really proud of my showings in those matches. Didn't come my way with the title, unfortunately, but you know, I got the respect from him. I got the respect from the crowd. So those
sometimes that's more important than the win.
yeah, those are super meaningful for me. Like really felt like I'd come a long way in my career being able to have that. And so I'm sure I'll get another chance to challenge for it down the line. I'd like to hope. I don't think that's the last time. I hope it's not the last time. To kind of, show what I've learned, prove myself there. That was really cool, meaningful set of matches there.
No, you did. Well, we did say you tagged a little bit with Juicy. How'd you like the tag team scene? Like doing that?
I love tagging. I think it's so like such a different style, such a different kind of world than singles wrestling. Don't get me wrong, I love fighting one-on-one. That's also like I'll do that any day. But tagging is so cool when you can like work with someone else in that way and kind of use both of your strengths to create something bigger than the sum of its parts. Really like get to a next level there. So actually, yeah, at Chaotic I was tagging with Kelvin DeMont for a bit. Didn't really work out. I think it wasn't really a mesh of styles there. I was also, being paid to be his bodyguard, so there wasn't really that kind of dynamic of equals that you'd really want from a tag team partnership. But also at Chaotic lately, I tagged with Livia, who's awesome. Absolutely gonna be a star someday if she isn't
Definitely.
already.
She's another one top. She's doing
awesome.
a lot of great things out there. I watched. I was up at Atlantic Pro and she captured the women's title up there.
She's fantastic.
Does great things.
Yeah.
That's
another
match. We have a really
that out. Yeah.
Scene. Like the people that we're seeing now on the indie scene within 3 years will probably be on TV. Somewhere.
Yeah, I'd like to hope. So many people. Yeah, for sure. I think she's going to be one of them, genuinely. I think she's got the world at her feet. Actually, yeah, now that you point that out, I did challenge for her women's title at APW last November, right? It was one of the first matches actually after I got home from Japan. That was awesome. We were, really went at it, really like put on a good match. Challenged her, she challenged me. Would love to run it back sometime. But that was a real highlight too. And so we actually might be teaming actually at Chaotic. We did for the last couple matches, or we did on the last couple shows. So I think we might have a good thing going there. Maybe see where that takes us. Who knows? We'll see.
Nice. You know, like I said, there is a different dynamic in tagging, you know, because you have the chemistry between the partners, and then you have the chemistry of the opponents, and then if everybody's working, it's like you can create some real magical moments in tag team wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thing, you know, I grew up again in that period. There was a lot of just strong tag teams, you know, and it was something sought after to be tag team champion in WWE, and there was just all these just great powerhouse tag teams that were just, you know, solid teams, not just people thrown together, but just, you know, unified teams, matching gear, matching gimmick, everything. And I feel like that's kind of coming back. We're getting a lot of great tag teams on the indie scenes again. You know, you got Miracle Generation, you got Shooter Boys, you got, you know, a bunch of just good teams out there that are probably be, you know, the next Young Bucks. Some of the
No, I absolutely think so.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope we can have that kind of surge of interest and more attention being paid to like the tag divisions at all these shows. Just for what they have to offer. It's such a like, well, like I said, like there's a million different ways to combine talents in that ways. If you just have two people, I mean, sure, you can put on some magic, don't get me wrong. But when you have like 4, 6, even like 8 larger like lucha style tag matches, just the sheer amount of options that you have and ways you can combine people and move sets and options, nothing else really like it. And that shows again, like Lucha Underground. Like I watched a lot of Chikara, also like that whole
Chikara
kind of.
Chikara was a lot of fun. I like Chikara. I got into indie wrestling kind of at the end of Chikara, unfortunately, but I went back and watched a lot of it.
Same to me, honestly. I watched a lot of their backlog. I didn't really follow a lot of their kind of peak live.
And that's actually how I, you know, we'll say that's how my passion for Sydney Bacabella and Smash Master started. With that whole Chikara scene and you know the Corporation of Devastation, and that whole thing was just great character work for me to witness. Again, I never seen stuff like that outside of WWE, and it was a little bit different. When I went to an indie show as a kid, you know, it was really weird. There wasn't anybody like notable on the rosters. There was nobody notable wrestling. You couldn't even remember who was there. It was just about meeting a couple of the people, or seeing like Tito Santana come in and work somebody, or seeing somebody like from a major promotion come in. There was no indie scene, it felt. You know, you fast forward, when I walked in, you know, everybody has a place, a role, a name, superstars, you know, everybody, you know, the champions look like champions, people look, you know, like wrestlers. Everything looked legit, and I was like, you know, very dumbfounded. I was like, the only thing this is missing is millions of dollars of budget, you know, in any of these shows. But the Chikara stuff was even cooler because it brought the characters into it, and that got me into like kind of a rabbit hole of watching things like a Camp Leapfrog, and what else was there? Well, obviously, you know, Rad Pro.
Sure, yeah.
We do a lot of character work, wrestling with characters out there now too, which is nice. A few others that are kind of doing a lot of character driven.
Yeah, I think it's really good to see, honestly. I think it's kind of something that's been missing since Chikara went down, and it's something that I think more shows should do. Like I think that's also like something that's easy to grab people who aren't necessarily wrestling fans. It's an easy in, like, because if you're not invested in anyone who has like their gimmick is I'm a wrestler, or they don't really have like they don't have a strong character, but they can really like wrestle. They're good. They're technically good. They've got all these like cool moves. Sometimes that's like not enough. Sometimes you want to have the like big oversized characters. You want to have that kind of storyline going.
So that's why you make them
those, like, yeah, you want to have those like superhero type conflicts, and that's so much easier to get people hooked on, in my experience.
Well, I mean, that's one thing, you know, I saw, you know, is the colorful characters. I said, you know, the Ant Colony and stuff, and all these people just dressed up And it brings in a whole other world of of kind of like cosplay involvement. It's big into wrestling, because you'll see even pro wrestlers cosplay like Marvel characters in their
Yeah.
gear, and inspire that into their gear and come into it. So it was cool to see. And like I said, just the whole funness of it. It took for me, it brought, and it still does, these kinds of things, especially like Rad Pro, that wrestling can be fun. It doesn't have to be this serious sport. It doesn't have to be this thing that people are fighting online about numbers and all these, silly little things. It can just be something you go to and laugh. You can see a whole family of 8 fight, one guy or
Yeah,
whatever you
exactly.
want. Anything can happen, but it can just be fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one of the worst things about like wrestling right now, like we've said, it's such a like good time to be into wrestling just overall. I think one of the worst things is when people get lost in the weeds, talking numbers, talking like, oh, well, X company had sold this many tickets, X company had this many views. Like, who cares? Like, if that's the most interesting part of talking wrestling for you, then like, do you even really like wrestling? I think you
Yeah,
just
like I
like
don't even think honestly I don't even think the wrestlers care about these things.
no,
Like I
and
think
like
they don't wrestle.
yeah, exactly. Wrestlers just want to wrestle. Like I just want to, from my perspective, I just want to go out there and fight. Like I don't care. I mean, sure, a good house is great, but as long as everyone's above water, as long as everyone's making enough money to keep running these shows and keep making profits and keep the scene alive, then like who cares if another show, like why are you paying attention to other shows if you don't even watch them, if you don't
Yeah, and
care?
I mean,
Like
especially the indie scene, it's like
yeah,
it's
who
not a
cares?
lucrative business.
No.
It can be something that you can sustain. It's something that can run itself. It's something you can make a little bit, but you're not going to make $1 million overnight running a show. It's not going to
No.
happen.
No.
Some people get that misconception. Some people try.
Hmm.
You see that tax year is coming up. Sometimes you get that. People will run a show. They'll think they can flip their money, and it's like it's a loss. It's a loss for a while.
Oh, absolutely.
But the major companies fighting back and forth. It's like, dude, they're playing with millions of dollars. They don't really care who's watching what, as long as somebody's buying something and doing something, and then somebody always is. And the wrestlers aren't invested in that. They're getting paid regardless. So there's wrestling, like you said. They're doing what they do and have fun with. They don't care who's watching.
Yeah, I mean, again, like a lot, if it's a TV deal, especially, like their problem is with the networks, like, and that's the network's business. I don't care about that. I'm not a network person. I don't like, as long as I'm getting paid and as long as I get the chance to get out there and wrestle, like.
You guys don't have board meetings about chaotic and
I
Twitch
know. I
numbers.
mean, maybe we should. Maybe that's the secret. Maybe that's how we
You
start getting
gotta
audience.
tell Chase Del Monte he's got to get on those Twitch numbers, get them up
Yeah,
there. Where
like
they're getting the
maybe that's
ratings.
it. Start complaining about numbers, start fighting about how many tickets everyone else is selling publicly and loudly on Twitter, then like
Who's
yeah, I don't
getting
know,
more?
maybe that's the
Who's getting
secret.
more subs? Who's getting the most subs?
Maybe that's what it is. That's what's gonna really make us
Um,
millionaires.
but no, I mean, I always, that is the kind of the downside. The internet is no kind of fuels that too, because everybody can kind of just say what they want, and
Mm,
you know, even if it's fabricated or whatever, somebody else will take it and run with it,
of
and
course.
the number of games I see it all the time. It's why I actually, when I decided to do my podcast, originally I was doing all wrestling, indie wrestling, pro, TV wrestling, everything. And I started to get into the TV wrestling, and I was just like, yo, these people are not friendly. Like when I was, a young kid, and even like later in the forums and stuff in the early internet in the 90s, fans weren't like this.
Mhm.
We had Monday Night Wars, WCW versus WWF, and people were, but it was for fun, and it was funny, and nobody was like being abusive over it. The things that I saw on X and other platforms, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna stick to my indie scene. That's what I like. That's where I can go anyways. And unfortunately, it's just like I'll watch TV wrestling, but I don't like to get involved with it like socially, because it's just always a fight, no matter what.
Yeah, I can't
Um,
imagine like that must be so stressful, like being a wrestler on TV and having to see people just like slinging this crap back and forth all the time. Like it makes me glad that I'm a relatively unknown indie name and no one has deeply held strong parasocial opinions about like who I am or what I do. Uh just because honestly like all I can think is it just doesn't matter like that. Do you like wrestling? Then why does it seem like everyone who likes wrestling online actually hates everything about modern wrestling?
Well, yeah, and then
Yeah.
you see scary things like Oscar, the poor girl's scared because you got
Sure.
fans taking things too far. And like I know that happens in the indie scene too, mostly probably via DM. I don't think anybody's DMs are ever safe. And
No,
that goes to guys.
nobody. Oh,
I've
absolutely.
talked to guys and they've gotten some weird ass requests and they've showed me screenshots. They'll be like, "What?"
That's for sure.
Um, but to see somebody say that they're afraid, it's like, dude, this is supposed to be something fun. Again, something that's supposed to be, entertainment.
Sure. I think people, yeah, I know. I think it's just people hide behind a screen and they think they can say whatever. From the safety of your keyboard, your name's not attached or anything. Honestly, the boldest thing is when people do it with their full legal name attached. Like, what are you doing? When you see
But
someone who has like a wife and kids, like
yeah,
going in and
that's the
sending
funny
creepy
thing. Like, they're
DMs,
not
like,
even young kids doing this. You turn around, they're like
no.
40, 50-year-olds fighting. It's like,
Like,
what?
don't you have something better to do with your life? Like, go spend time with your kids.
Yeah, do something.
Mhm.
But
Too
I mean, that's the
productive.
negative side. The plus side
Right.
is, we were talking, wrestling is more out there. People can see you. People, like you said, the social media presence. You go to Japan, people can find you.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that like I personally have been very fortunate to have almost no interactions with anyone who's like made me uncomfortable. I've been very lucky out here. Um but yeah, no, I think that's great for like especially smaller scenes where you don't care about the numbers, you just care about like it's a cool show on the indies that's doing the kind of wrestling that I like to see. And I like that with the internet, it's so much easier to find those shows. Like, I don't think I would have ever found Lucha Underground or Chikara or Ring of Honor or any of these other like indie shows that were really like what got me into watching wrestling more. If it weren't for the internet and finding things that were recommended by people like on forums or just like by word of mouth.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I
so I think that's
totally.
awesome that you can have this thriving indie scene and have different styles of wrestling all over the place and have that be easy to find and keep finding more of the kind of wrestling you love, no matter what
And I
it
mean, and that's the whole thing of kind of what I saw, during 2020. I was
is. Mhm.
blessed, that I started to gain a following with my YouTube channel between the shorts I was posting, videos I was making, interviews I was doing. Then me and my partner decided to, dedicate to the indie scene and to try to get more eyes and ears on that scene. And, because there is shows out there that other people would probably love if they just knew that it existed,
For sure.
you know. And not everybody can see everything at once, but if you have, a bunch of people watching or sharing it, and I've had people even in other countries watch stuff locally from here and like report back, being like, hey, I saw this on your channel, I followed it from over there, and then follow their this. It's like, it's cool. It's like, oh, that's awesome. You're in London, you're watching a show that's in Mass. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I had friends in the US who when I was in Japan, would either wake up early or stay up really late to watch some of my shows live. Which one? I was like, "You're crazy. Why are you doing that? You can just watch you can watch it after it's uploaded." Um, but that was really cool that like you're able to do that. And like before I was a wrestler, when I was a fan, like I do the same thing for like New Japan shows. Like yeah, it's awesome to have that level of like accessibility.
No, it really is, honestly. And like I said, it's a good time. To be both, I think, a wrestler and even a fan or someone over doing like a podcast or someone that does media or social media or whatever, because there's such a market for it. Like I said, right now the indie scene is hopping. There's more eyes on it with the WWE ID and Evolve coming back and people getting looked at. Plus IWTV, plus other major companies now taking people like MLW.
Mhm.
They took VRG. That's a nice pickup from somebody around here.
For sure. Yeah,
Um,
super good opportunity
so you
there.
have all these options just besides the one big WWE now. But
Mhm.
then now that's become even closer with the ID. So for a wrestler, it's great. For the fan, like I said, there's more shows than ever. You can go to probably 3 in a day if you can time travel.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Unfortunately, even with the weather, it's supposed to be like 3, 4 shows running the same night.
I know, it makes it tough.
It does. Especially if you want to see all 4.
Right.
um, IWTV's become a friend.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
like I
the
said,
backlight's awesome.
as far
Love.
as social media and stuff, everybody likes to see what wrestlers are doing. I find wrestling clips and the funny and fun stuff that they do, getting shared out there, showing that wrestling might not be what you think it is. Like you might have a misconception of what wrestling is in general. There's people that think of wrestling, think of the old ages of and think that's what pro wrestling is. And then you see something on the indie scene, it's like, wait, what? That's wrestling?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I love being able to have some small part in changing people's mind about what wrestling can look like and what modern wrestling is at this point.
No, definitely. And I think, you coming in kind of with a clean slate, it's even better because you're part of that modern wrestling. You didn't come in with archaic views of, what you saw growing up and thinking, well, wow, I want to be like, this star. Yet it's like 30 years later and that's not what's popular anymore or whatever. You didn't have to model yourself or want to model yourself. You got in later when it was a more, I would say, different age, and you were older to understand what's realistic and not.
Yeah, I think that definitely was an impact. Probably had a pretty decent sized influence on like how I approach wrestling and what I want to
Now, mind you,
do, what I want to get out of it. Yeah.
I've only met two people that wrestled that weren't lifelong fans. That would
Mhm.
be you and Miss Becca.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yes,
And we're
but
both doing cool stuff out there. So.
yeah.
Mhm.
But no, you both came in and I was just in, and I find that fascinating because as an older adult, is it something you get in for sports? Is it something you get in for athletics? I mean, as a kid, you can get hooked and just want to be part of the glam. But when
Mhm.
you get older, it's like, wait, why do I want to, why do I want to take these bumps? Why do I want to jump in the ring? Why do I want to get body slammed? Why do I want to get elbow dropped? Why do I want to get thrown outside, hit with a chair?
Sure.
But you want to, is it, like I said, the physicality part? You want to be part of the showmanship? You want to try to get somewhere with it? There's a bunch more when you start to hit that 18, 19-year-old level. Like I said, when you're young and you're impounded in your head of what you want to be, you just want to be world champion. You don't care, you're just a
Sure.
kid. It grows with you, um, but yeah, I mean, I do say it's fascinating just to see older people getting into wrestling, and even on the indie shows itself, it's I'll go to a lot of shows that the medium age isn't like 12, it's like 30 or 40. There's a lot of older adults going now, and I think that's also pretty cool too, just to see people enjoying the art of pro wrestling, and not making it an age specific kind of thing.
No, I think it's great that to have, especially like all ages crowds. Because I think when it's like the 30-40 range, like a lot of it, I think nostalgia probably plays a huge plays a huge role in that. Lots of people who were, fans as kids who are coming back and being able to see it in their area, being able to go back to that. So I think it's cool when we can get like families coming in and like kids enjoying wrestling for what it is. I think not coming in with any preconceived notions about like what it's supposed to look like or what it's supposed to be. They can just come in there and enjoy the show and get into it and not have to think about like, even if someone at the playground has said like, oh, that's fake, that's like none of it's real. Like they're watching it and they're like, I don't know, that looks pretty real to me. And I guess that also applies for a lot of adults. But and
No, it does.
it feels real from being in there. Feels pretty real to me.
For the first few years I watched wrestling, I thought maybe it was real, but again, I was very young. I was one of those kids, like I said, I watched, I think my earliest memory was watching Hogan in a cage. Like
Mhm.
that would have been WrestleMania 2. I don't know if it was a rerun or not, but I remember watching it
Mhm.
on TV. And I'd go to my local video store, I'd rent these VHSs that would have, SummerSlam '89 and Royal Rumbles and different things and get caught up and kind of see it. And um as pay-per-view started to come out, you'd watch those, and then friends in school where you get together and hang out. And high school, like I said, it was on a different level. Almost every day somebody was getting suspended for telling someone to suck it. People were going through tables because ECW was really big at the time. For some reason, in my school, people loved to jump through tables. We had an issue like
Whatever
five.
works, I guess.
Yeah, there was like a group of 5 people, and honestly, they broke 6 tables in the lunchroom because they were jumping off. They had like a little balcony, and they were jumping off
That's
it.
wild. Yeah, I wish my school was that cool.
I had a kid that got expelled because he dressed up as the Blue Blazer and threw marshmallows at teachers. I mean, we had a big wrestling influence.
Mhm.
Um, After that, like I said, I tried to get into it. I tried to do, and then like life happened, and I stopped. I stopped for a good amount of time. Probably not until 2018 ish. I started watching wrestling again via the indie scene. So I kind of just saw that again, and that kind of got me back into TV. So then I got hooked into characters like Bray Wyatt, what he was doing, and other characters on that were driven. But the indie scene is where I've been staying, and it's funny, like the nostalgia for some of it is there, but I actually enjoy some of the like. If you look deep down, like some shows like Focus Pro, they have a lot of adult humor in there mixed in.
Mhm.
There's other shows that are totally just like death match shows that are totally just violence. If you're into that, there's shows that don't even have to be family friendly. There's swears and such, not to the extent of craziness, but it's there. Um, so like I said, sometimes I'll go to something like that with my wife, or we'll go to see something like that because she's not really into the kiddie kind of wrestler. But then,
Fair.
like when I have my son, I'll go to a more children's all ages show or someone that has more like heroes and character work with different characters, so forth. But like I said, something in there for everybody. Now you were again. We're gonna go where you were supposed to fight Notorious Mimi on Saturday again due to weather. That
Mhm.
Blitzkrieg show was canceled. You said you had been wanting to work her for a while. Who else is on your radar right now?
I'd love to wrestle Becca. Actually, you just mentioned now that you just mentioned her. I think we wrestled at Rad Pro last year. Had a very fun match, and we have actually just got announced a day or two ago. But we're gonna be in a triple threat. Me, Becca, and Livia. Really, really looking forward to that. Two people I really respect and really want to be in the ring with.
Where's
So
that going to be?
that's at Chaotic actually
Oh,
coming up
awesome.
at I want to say let me actually look up the date real quick so I can figure out plug that accurately. But I believe that's at our next show, possibly. Hallowed Be Thy Name, which should be at the end of the month.
It's going to be a great match.
I'm pulling it up right now so I don't get the date wrong.
I'm
February
glad Becca's
21st.
back.
February 21st. I'm so glad too. I think she's so awesome to have around. Just an awesome part of the scene. Uh, fully behind Becca every step of the way.
She's one of those people like and I talk about it a lot as, in the indie scene. Sorry to cut you off, but
No.
you can probably attest to this. You're in Chaotic and you see kids come and go. Is in the indie scene, you can really see the arc of how people grow.
Yeah, you get
And
to
I
see
remember
people
like seeing
develop.
Becca pre-pandemic, and it was just like she was basic Becca, and she came out. She had this '80s attire on, like she was a gymnastic person, and then like from then to the end of the pandemic, she like flourished into this scrungy squad pop star icon, like over beyond over, just great. And you see that all the time now. Like you can watch a wrestler's arc, and I just love to watch it on the indie scene is to see how people grow. Like I said, Ricky Smokes, another one. I remember when he was Ricky Archer, he came in, he was okay. People didn't really care. Now today, people love that dude.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's great that being on the indies gives you kind of that space to explore. You don't have the pressure of like being on TV and having to like market as that kind of like product with a company behind you trying to like get behind it. I like it that being able to experiment and kind of do your own thing is really awesome. One of my favorite things about being on the indies for sure, if not top up there.
So you got Becca. Anybody else on the
I cannot wait for, also speaking of injuries, Shannon Levangie, when she comes back from her injury, cannot wait to get in the ring with her. I have a lot of respect for her. Would love to get a solid match in. Let me think.
Yeah, Shannon's another great wrestler. Again,
Mhm.
does a lot. I think with her and Becker out, it hit the women's division in New England a
Oh,
little.
absolutely. Yeah, they were
Um,
really holding it down.
and Davey kind of slowing down her work rate as well.
Mhm.
But she was top of Chaotic for a good while.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I
She was
loved her
awesome.
run. I thought that was great. Like I said, Chaotic has been trend setting for a bit. They had, the women's champion become the world champion. They had the trans championship. They had the trans optic there. They had, other stuff just happening that other companies just weren't doing. And like I said, I mean, it's always a great show to go to. Always encourage somebody to go and check it out. Because they do run. You guys run frequently. It's like three,
Yeah,
four
we run
times
all the
a month
time,
in
usually
different towns. So like you can
at
just
least a
hit
couple shows a month. Makes it easy to catch
somewhere
us.
close to you. You can hit that Chaotic show.
Mhm.
Even if it's just one show, check it out because it does have some of the best wrestling. It might
Yeah,
not be on, like I said, people ask me, because they do. They were like, why isn't it on IWTV? And there's not, like, they're on Twitch. If you go to Twitch, you can watch their whole shows.
it's true. It's free to stream.
Um, but it's honestly really nice to go live because it's a good experience. It's a good show, and it's worth the money. That's the other thing about the indie scene I love is that you get your money's worth when you go to a show. If you
Absolutely.
looked
Yeah.
at, I was looking at Mania prices. I'm sorry, those tickets
No, that's insane. I had a
they
few
were
people ask me if
insane.
I
I'm
was gonna
like,
go.
talk
Absolutely
about you
not.
could put on a show for one of those front row seats. Jesus.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah, no, I
speaking of that,
absolutely.
those are the wrestlers. Is there any promotions you're trying to get to in 25?
25? Yeah, I mean, keep branching out, keep trying to find. I actually made my New York City debut earlier this year. So branching out into New York, I was at LVAC in the Philly area last year. That was an awesome show. Loved being there. So kind of just like keep working west, I guess. I don't have any specific names that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. Very excited to go back to Beyond actually for a couple of their upcoming shows. That's kind of one that's always been on my radar, always been on my radar too. So it's kind of cool to be a part of that now.
Maine's got a thriving scene too,
Yeah,
though.
Limitless actually, now that you mention it, I would love to get up and wrestle Limitless. That's kind of still something I have to check off that I've been wanting to do forever. So Limitless,
Limitless is fun. That's
absolutely.
probably that's one of my favorite promotions out there. And I have to say you get a little bit of best of everything because you'll get people from Mass, you'll get the people from Maine, and then you get people from around the country. I've seen that was one of the pinnacle products that helped me launch the VSW, got me into indie wrestling, going to a lot of shows. Because during the pandemic they were running the road, and I really got invested in meeting the characters and learning about the different wrestlers that were there, and seeing their stories that were unfolding. I saw that. I mean, that's how I learned a lot about Becca, Love Doug.
Mhm.
Ava Ever was on that show. So many people were on that show, and there was all these great matches. But yeah, Maine Limitless, that's great out up there. There's also there's a whole bunch of there's like 5 or 6 promotions now in Maine running. They're all doing pretty good. I have to say, thriving scene. But out west, I mean, it's a whole new world out there. There's
Yeah, love seeing those new frontiers. So Limitless is one of my goals for this year, and just checking off more states, seeing what's out there, continuing that kind of.
How about out of the country? Any more countries you want to travel
Yeah, I mean,
to?
I'd love to go back to Japan, anytime, anytime, pretty much. So we've been thinking about that. I'd love to go to Mexico at some point, check out the lucha scene down there.
Oh, that
Uh,
would be fun.
Canada, of course, maybe C4, maybe I like one of those shows up there. Mystery Wrestling, I'm a big fan of whenever I see their stuff pop up. So any of those shows would be awesome to do too. Really like open to any and all new opportunities, just kind of trying to like expand my horizons, see what's out there, experience the wide world of indie wrestling as it exists today.
Nice, nice. No, honestly, and it is. It's a great world. Like I said, you can travel anywhere. People going all over. People going to Europe too. There's Germany wrestling out there. WXW.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I've talked to people down in Finland. There's slam wrestling down in Finland now.
Mhm.
We had an interview with the owner of him. He actually went up to Canada, trained with Stu Hart, moved to Finland, and started pro wrestling in the country. So he's the first person to start pro wrestling in the Finland country, and it basically started as a wildfire in the Nordics, and there's like a lot of wrestling up there. So I try, like, because like you said, like every country has its own style. Japan has its own style. Other countries have their own styles. It's cool to see. Um, New England again has its, a lot of the Killer Kowalski heritage, so you see a lot of the same style. But when people come back from these other countries, they bring another style in. It's like I said, it makes for a special blend of just pro wrestling when you see all these styles put together, seamlessly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good to the more different influences we can get in, the better. Keeping things fresh, keeping nothing's new, which means everything's kind of new, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just seeing, like I said, where this year goes in pro wrestling, I think, like I said, with the ID and just everything going on, I think there's going to be I think a lot of people are going to try to, there's going to be a lot of good shows this year, a lot of showcase shows, a lot of different things. I think the fan base is going to grow even more. I really do. Just like I said, last year I went, speaking of Limitless, like I went to their Vacation Land Cup at the Coliseum. It was at a small Coliseum, at probably where a hockey match was. It almost sold out. It was packed in there. That's something I don't typically see on an indie level show.
No, that's tough to do, and that's awesome.
And
That
I
there's
think
that level.
there's gonna be more of that. More promotions are gonna go for that. I think, I don't look at things as competitive. I would say, when one promotion does something great, others should try to follow because that means the market is open for it. That
No,
means
I
that
agree. I think once you show that that something like that can work, all it takes is one promotion to be able to do it successfully for everyone else to see that and realize that it's possible.
yeah, like I don't think people should be judged. Okay, we can do this too. That means we can get this many people. There's that many people interested in wrestling. Let's set this up. So it's cool to see what level of the indie, can it go? Even with things like Evolve returning and seeing what happens there, seeing people that I know on TV is always fun. Seeing people I've interviewed is always fun. I love seeing that. I always pop for the people I interview, seeing them on TV. When I saw Ricky on that little commercial there during the Rumble, I popped for that. I popped for that more than probably anything in the Rumble, to be honest.
No, it's awesome to see someone who I've trained with since I started having these opportunities. It's so cool.
But yeah, it's a great thing. But we're just about out of time. I do thank you for taking the time this morning, coming on. Let me tell you, let me ask you, where can folks find you on social?
Sure. Well, I'm on Instagram primarily. That's where I'm the most active generally, as Spike from Wrestling. All one phrase, no punctuation, just Spike from Wrestling, easy to remember. I'm on Twitter as at WrestleSpike. I'm on Blue Sky as well. Not super active on there. Trying to be more active on there and less on Twitter because Twitter sucks. That's also as Spike from Wrestling .bluesky.social. You'll find me. Just search Spike from Wrestling. I'm on there.
Now, if do people ever get confused? Spike from Wrestling call you like Spike Dudley, or have to be Spike Dudley related?
I would love to be associated with Spike Dudley. I think Spike Dudley's great. So I nothing but respect for my predecessor, for the Spikes that came before me and paved the way for Spikes in wrestling.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think hopefully we're doing different enough stuff. I think that that no one's getting confused.
No, I mean just in general on social media, because people on social media, they just look at the name, they never look at the profile picture.
Yeah, that's true. No one's confused us yet, but I'm waiting for the day. I think that would be fantastic.
It's weird when it works the other way, though, when the wrestler just has like a weird wrestler name and like a friend comes up, hey, guess who's following me? And you just see it's like Ray Ripley 11535. Dude, that's not really her.
No, it's not. Yeah, and you see all the fan accounts too. A lot of those have very similar names.
Yeah.
It's tough out there. Gotta look out.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. We will hopefully see you in March at Blitzkrieg. Chaotic coming up soon. I'm gonna have to check out, find out when, where, and how that triple threat match, because that sounds like it's gonna be a fire of a match.
Yeah, that's February 21st in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. Look for more information on any of the Chaotic Wrestling socials and catch us there. I'm going to beat some ass. They're going to beat my ass. It's going to be great.
So pray for good weather, right?
Yeah, right. Fingers crossed.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. And thank you everybody at home for watching. And as always, support indie wrestling. Versace Stunner, out.